The massive Zorn battleship materialized above San Francisco Bay, its obsidian black hull blocking out the setting sun like a nightmare made of impossible geometry. The Cosmic Rebels, Jake Harrison's indie rock band, was mid-performance at the Global Unity Music Festival, an ironic name that would soon prove prophetic. Jake's fingers were mid-riff when the first alien transmission cut through the festival sound system. The crowd went silent, a sea of raised foams capturing what would become the most watched moment in human history. His electric guitar, a custom-built Gibson with iridescent circuit board inlays, hung suspended in midair. Inhabitants of Earth, the translation matrix boomed. We are the Zorn Imperium. Your planet has been selected for peaceful integration. Resistance is mathematically improbable. Commander Elena Martinez, watching from the hastily assembled Joint Extraterrestrial Response Center in Colorado, muttered a string of increasingly creative expletives. The holographic displays showed the Zorn ship's impossible dimensions, over 3 miles long, with weapon signatures that made Earth's most advanced military hardware look like children's toys. Jake, somehow, didn't panic. Years of improvising during chaotic band performances had prepared him for unexpected moments. His fingers, still hovering over the guitar strings, began to move. What happened next would be analyzed by linguists, musicians, and alien anthropologists for generations. The guitar's feedback began to form a pattern. Not just noise, but something more. A complex harmonic response that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the alien transmission. The Zorn communication array flickered. Their universal translation matrix, designed to interpret millions of known languages, began to hiccup and stutter. In the control room, Dr. Michael Reis leaned forward, his quantum computing background tingling with excitement. "That's not just interference," he said to Emma Rodriguez, who was studying the alien ship's initial scans. "He's talking to them." The Zorn communication officer, a being of crystalline intelligence housed in a biomechanical exoskeleton, reported unprecedented linguistic anomalies. Jake Harrison's guitar was generating harmonic frequencies that seemed to carry semantic meaning. It was as if the music itself was a language, transforming the rigid mathematical communication of the Zorn into something fluid, unpredictable. Emma Rodriguez recognized the potential immediately. "They're mathematical conquistadors," she explained to the stunned military leadership. "Their entire civilization is built on predictive algorithms and precise communication. And here's a human, using pure creativity to break their system." The festival crowd remained frozen, 1,000,000 smartphones capturing every second. Social media exploded. #AlienConcert was trending within minutes, with millions watching the live stream. The Zorn ship's communication array continued to fluctuate. Their initial invasion protocols, meticulously calculated over centuries of galactic conquest, began to develop unexpected variables. How do you categorize a species where a musician could potentially communicate more effectively than a diplomat? Jake, completely unaware of the global implications of his impromptu performance, simply kept playing. His bandmates, initially frozen in shock, began to join in. The drums created a polyrhythmic pattern that seemed to pulse against the alien ship's energy signatures. The bass found harmonic resonances that made the Zorn communication systems vibrate in sympathy. Commander Aria Winters, watching from the military command center, saw something nobody else noticed. The alien ship wasn't just being communicated with, it was being listened to. Humanity wasn't just responding, they were engaging. "Sir," a young communications specialist interrupted the tense military briefing. "We're detecting multiple response patterns from the alien vessel. It's almost like they're trying to play back." The Zorn High Command, observing from their central processing matrix, experienced their first genuine moment of uncertainty in millennia. Their invasion protocols included thousands of scenarios: nuclear resistance, technological defense, diplomatic capitulation. But a musical conversation, this was completely outside their computational models. As Jake's improvised alien communication continued, The first cracks appeared in the Zorn's seemingly impenetrable technological and cultural armor. Humanity had just introduced chaos into a civilization built entirely on predictability. And they were just getting started. 48 hours after Jake Harrison's unprecedented musical first contact, the world had transformed. Emma Rodriguez sat in a converted warehouse in Silicon Valley, surrounded by a motley crew of hackers, military strategists, and tech experts. Giant screens displayed real-time data streams from around the globe, each one a testament to humanity's rapidly mobilizing response. They're mathematically predictive, Emma explained, tracing holographic patterns of Zorn communication algorithms. Their entire civilization is built on probabilistic models that assume linear progression and minimal variability. Dr. Michael Rice adjusted his quantum computing rig, a cobbled-together system that looked more like a mad scientist's experiment than a cutting-edge research station. "Precisely," he muttered, "and we're about to introduce some serious quantum uncertainty." The global hacktivist network, which had always existed in the shadows, now found itself on the front lines of humanity's first extraterrestrial defense. What had once been scattered groups of digital rebels were now coordinating with military intelligence, scientific institutions, and tech companies in an unprecedented alliance. In Beijing, a team of game designers was repurposing massive multiplayer online game engines to create predictive models of Zorn tactical responses. In Lagos, a collective of network engineers was developing communication jamming techniques that would make the aliens' rigid communication systems implode. In Buenos Aires, a group of behavioral psychologists was analyzing every scrap of intercepted Zorn communication, looking for psychological vulnerabilities. Commander Area Winters received an encrypted message from Jake Harrison, now unofficially the most important amateur musician in human history. The guitar that had first communicated with the Zorn was being studied in a top-secret laboratory, its circuitry revealing unexpected quantum entanglement properties that defied current scientific understanding. "They're used to conquering," Jake's message read. "We're used to surviving." The Zorn, meanwhile, were experiencing their first genuine moments of computational uncertainty. Their invasion algorithms, which had successfully subdued hundreds of civilizations across the galaxy, were developing unexpected error margins when applied to Earth. Dr. Rice's quantum AI system, nicknamed Chaos by his creators, began generating increasingly bizarre predictive models. It wasn't just analyzing the Zorn's potential moves. It was creating scenarios so unpredictable that the alien systems couldn't categorize them. Emma Rodriguez understood the psychological warfare they were waging. The Zorn believed in total information control, in mathematical certainty. Humanity was about to show them the power of controlled chaos. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A team of improvisational theater performers in Chicago developed communication protocols that mimicked the non-linear thinking patterns that were confounding the Zorn. Their techniques, built on years of understanding human spontaneity, became a critical component of the global defense strategy. "It's not about outgunning them," Emma explained during a global briefing. "It's about outthinking them. Every time they try to apply a predictive model, we'll introduce a variable they can't calculate." The first major test came when the Zorn attempted to disable global communication networks. Instead of a centralized response, humanity's communication systems proved to be a hydra. Cut one connection, and a dozen more would emerge. Local networks, community radio, amateur radio operators, and underground communication channels began sharing information in patterns that made no sense to the mathematically rigid Zorn. Commander Winters coordinated a series of deliberately confusing military exercises. Tanks would move one direction, then suddenly change course. Aircraft would follow impossible flight paths. Submarine movements became a complex dance that defied traditional strategic logic. "We're teaching them that predictability is a weakness," she told her team. "Humanity's strength has always been our ability to adapt, to find solutions in the spaces between expected outcomes." Dr. Rice's quantum AI began generating what could only be described as strategic nonsense. battle plans so bizarre that they would crash any traditional military computation system. Yet each plan contained a kernel of brilliant, unpredictable logic. Jake Harrison, still somewhat bewildered by his newfound role in humanity's defense, continued to experiment with the quantum properties of his modified guitar. Each note seemed to carry more than just sound. It carried a kind of informational complexity that the Zorn systems couldn't parse. As the second day of potential invasion concluded, the Zorn High Command was experiencing something unprecedented in their millennia of galactic conquest: total, absolute uncertainty. The Zorn communication matrices began to malfunction in increasingly bizarre ways. What started as a minor glitch in their translation systems had become a full-scale psychological assault powered by human creativity. A meme of Jake Harrison's first contact guitar performance went viral, but not in any way the aliens could comprehend. Each iteration mutated slightly: a Photoshop alien head here, a ridiculous caption there, creating a form of visual communication that defied linear interpretation. The Zorn's attempt to analyze these images caused their most advanced AI systems to crash repeatedly. Emma Rodriguez watched the developing chaos with a predator smile. "They're trying to categorize chaos," she explained to Dr. Michael Reyes. "But chaos isn't a bug. For humans, it's a feature." The global entertainment industry weaponized itself with terrifying efficiency. Hollywood studios, video game developers, internet content creators, and social media influencers became an unexpected front line of cultural warfare. Late-night comedy shows produced segments that were simultaneously hilarious and strategically brilliant. Each joke a carefully crafted piece of psychological warfare designed to exploit the Zorn's rigid thought processes. In Tokyo, a team of anime artists began creating rapid response content that reimagined the alien invasion as everything from a romantic comedy to a sports tournament. Each episode was broadcast globally, with hidden communication codes embedded in the animation that further confused Zorn intelligence systems. Commander Area Winters discovered something even more fascinating. The Zorn's inability to understand human humor was becoming a critical vulnerability. Their communication systems were designed to interpret language as a series of logical statements. Sarcasm, irony, and multilayered jokes were computational kryptonite. Jake Harrison found himself at the center of an unprecedented cultural phenomenon. His band, now dubbed First Contact, became a global symbol of resistance. Their music, a chaotic blend of rock, electronic, and experimental sounds, was being analyzed by linguists, mathematicians, and alien communication specialists. "It's like they're trying to understand jazz using a calculator," Jake told Emma during a classified briefing. "Our culture doesn't make sense if you're looking for linear logic." The Zorn's initial invasion reports had categorized human culture as fragmented and inefficient. Now that fragmentation became their greatest weapon. While the aliens expected a unified hierarchical response, they encountered a global network of creativity that shifted and changed with impossible speed. Social media became a battlefield of a different kind. Millions of humans began producing content specifically designed to confuse Zorn communication systems. Memes that contained multiple layers of meaning, viral videos with deliberately nonsensical narratives, and collaborative storytelling projects that changed direction with each new contribution. Dr. Rice's quantum AI, Chaos, began generating communication patterns that mimicked human cultural exchange. "They're looking for meaning," he explained. "But for humans, meaning is fluid. It's not a destination. It's a journey." The Zorn leadership watched in growing confusion as human culture continued to defy every predictive model. A stand-up comedian in New York would make a joke that would somehow become a critical piece of global communication. A viral dance challenge would contain encrypted communication that would slip past alien monitoring systems. Cultural diversity became a weapon. The Zorn had conquered civilizations with uniform cultures, predictable communication patterns. Humanity presented them with a kaleidoscope of languages, art forms, and modes of expression that seemed to change faster than they could be analyzed. Commander Winters discovered something even more profound. The Zorn's invasion protocols were based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human potential. They saw culture as a static thing to be conquered. Humans saw culture as a living, breathing, constantly evolving organism. "We're not just resisting," Emma Rodriguez told a global conference of military and cultural leaders. "We're demonstrating that resistance is a form of creativity." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A group of performance artists in Rio de Janeiro began creating live performances that were simultaneously art, communication, and psychological warfare. Each performance was unique, impossible to predict, changing in real time based on audience interaction. The Zorn communication systems began to develop what could only be described as computational anxiety. Their carefully constructed models of invasion and conquest were being dismantled by something they couldn't quantify: human imagination. Jake Harrison's modified guitar, still being studied in top-secret laboratories, continued to generate strange quantum signatures. Each note seemed to carry more than just sound. It carried a kind of informational complexity that suggested humans were communicating on levels the Zorn couldn't even perceive. As the third day of potential invasion concluded, the Zorn High Command was experiencing something unprecedented in their millennia of galactic conquest. Complete, absolute cultural bewilderment. The underground workshop looked like a cross between a mad scientist's laboratory and a desperate war room. Commander Area Winters watched as teams of engineers, hackers, and inventors transformed captured Zorn technology into something the aliens could never have anticipated. Dr. Michael Rice stood at the center of controlled chaos, his quantum computing rig now interconnected with fragments of alien technology that defied conventional understanding. "It's not about replicating their technology," he muttered, soldering circuits with a manic intensity. "It's about breaking their technological paradigm." The first major breakthrough came from an unlikely source. A collective of indie game developers in Bangalore had been studying intercepted Zorn communication protocols. What the aliens saw as a secure, unbreakable network, the humans saw as an intricate puzzle waiting to be solved. Emma Rodriguez arrived with another piece of captured Zorn tech, a communication module that looked like a hybrid between a crystal and a circuit board. Within hours, a team of teenagers from diverse backgrounds had begun to modify it, turning the alien communication device into something entirely unexpected. "The Zorn believe in perfect optimization," Emma explained to Jake Harrison, who was now a key liaison between the technical teams and military leadership. "We believe in creative improvisation." The maker communities worldwide had become humanity's most unexpected defense force. 3D printing farms were repurposing alien material in ways the Zorn could never have predicted. A workshop in Detroit transformed a piece of alien hull material into adaptive armor that could change its molecular structure in response to different types of energy. Commander Winters received a report that made her pause. A group of high school students in New Mexico had reverse-engineered a Zorn energy weapon and turned it into a device that could generate localized electromagnetic pulses, a weapon that could disable alien technology without destroying infrastructure. Dr. Rice's quantum AI, chaos, had become something more than just a predictive system. It was now actively learning from every piece of captured alien technology, generating modification strategies that seemed to defy conventional logic. "They're used to fighting against technological resistance," Jake observed during a strategy meeting. "We're showing them technological creativity." The global response was anything but centralized. In Melbourne, a team of environmental engineers adapted Zorn atmospheric processing technology to clean up decades of pollution. In Cape Town, medical researchers used fragments of alien biomechanical systems to develop breakthrough treatment protocols for previously incurable diseases. Each modification was a middle finger to the Zorn's concept of technological superiority. A breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. A group of street artists in Rio de Janeiro had been experimenting with a piece of Zorn communication tech. What they created was part graffiti, part communication device, a quantum-entangled piece of art that could transmit information in ways the aliens couldn't intercept or understand. Emma Rodriguez discovered something even more profound. The Zorn's technological systems were designed for conquest, linear, predictable, focused on control. Human technology, by contrast, was designed for adaptation, for solving unexpected problems. "We don't just use technology," she explained during a global briefing. "We have a relationship with it." The maker communities worldwide had become a distributed research and development network. A piece of alien tech captured in Tokyo would be analyzed, modified, and reimagined in Toronto by morning. Collaborative platforms allowed for instantaneous sharing of discoveries, creating a technological resistance that was impossible to centralize or predict. Commander Winters watched as a team of retired engineers modified a Zorn propulsion system into a clean energy generator. "They came to conquer," she muttered, "and were turning their weapons into solutions." Dr. Rice's quantum AI began generating technological modification scenarios that seemed to dance on the edge of scientific possibility. Each solution was a unique blend of human creativity and technological improvisation. Jake Harrison's modified guitar, now part scientific instrument, part communication device, continued to generate strange quantum signatures. The device had become a symbol of humanity's technological rebellion, a perfect metaphor for their approach to the alien invasion. The Zorn communication systems began to detect something they had never encountered in centuries of galactic conquest. It wasn't just technological resistance. It was technological evolution happening in real time, faster than any predictive model could calculate. As the fourth day of potential invasion concluded, the Zorn Technological Command was experiencing something unprecedented in their millennia of galactic expansion. Complete, absolute technological uncertainty. The Zorn had conquered civilizations across hundreds of star systems, but they had never encountered a species that weaponized emotional complexity quite like humans. Emma Rodriguez stood before a wall of holographic displays, each screen showing a different layer of psychological warfare being waged against the alien invaders. "Emotion isn't a weakness," she told the assembled team of psychologists, linguists, and military strategists. "It's our most sophisticated weapon." Dr. Marcus Williams, a behavioral psychologist specializing in cross-cultural communication, had been studying the intercepted Zorn communication logs. "Their entire civilization is built on emotional suppression," he explained. "They see feelings as computational errors to be eliminated." The global response was a masterclass in psychological manipulation. Social media platforms became battlegrounds of emotional complexity. Personal stories of resilience, hope, and individual human experiences began flooding every communication channel the Zorn attempted to monitor. A veteran from Afghanistan shared a story of survival that was simultaneously a personal narrative and a coded communication about human adaptability. A cancer survivor's recovery journey became a metaphorical blueprint of human resistance. A young programmer's account of overcoming bullying transformed into a strategic communication about humanity's ability to transform challenges into strength. Jake Harrison discovered that the musical communication he'd accidentally initiated was more than just a technical breakthrough. The emotional resonance of music, something the Zorn couldn't comprehend, was becoming a critical weapon. Commander Area Winters received a report that made her smile. Psychological warfare teams had developed communication strategies that intentionally introduced emotional paradoxes, concepts that would create computational feedback loops in the Zorn's rigid communication systems. "We're not just fighting," she told her team. "We're making them feel." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A collective of therapists, artists, and communication specialists began creating narratives that were deliberately designed to challenge the Zorn's understanding of individual and collective experience. Dr. Michael Rice's quantum AI, Chaos, began generating psychological profiles that were less about predictive modeling and more about emotional landscape mapping. Each profile was a complex tapestry of potential responses, emotional triggers, and adaptive strategies. In Tokyo, A team of Anon creators produced a series of short films that were simultaneously entertainment and psychological warfare. Each narrative introduced emotional concepts that the Zorn communication systems couldn't parse. Stories of personal transformation, of choosing compassion over violence, of finding strength in vulnerability. Emma Rodriguez understood the deeper strategy. The Zorn expected a unified militaristic response. Instead, they were encountering a global network of individual stories that collectively formed a resistance more complex than any military strategy. A group of performance artists in Rio de Janeiro created live experiences that were part therapy, part resistance movement. Each performance introduced emotional concepts that challenged the Zorn's understanding of individual and collective experience. They see emotions as bugs, Dr. Williams explained during a global briefing. We see them as features. The psychological assault was multilayered. Social media influencers created content that was simultaneously entertaining and strategically brilliant. Memes became communication channels. Personal stories became weapons of psychological disruption. Jake Harrison's modified guitar continued to generate strange emotional signatures. Researchers discovered that the instrument was capturing something more than just sound. It was recording emotional frequencies that the Zorn couldn't comprehend. Commander Winters received reports of Zorn communication systems experiencing what could only be described as emotional overload. Their rigid computational models were breaking down when confronted with the complexity of human emotional experience. A breakthrough came from a group of child psychologists who analyzed the Zorn's communication patterns. They discovered that the aliens had no concept of imaginative play, of the ability to see potential futures that didn't yet exist. Imagination is our superpower, Emma told the team. They can calculate. We can dream. The global response was a symphony of individual and collective emotional resilience. Each personal story became a note in a larger composition of resistance. The Zorn's attempt to categorize and control became increasingly futile as they encountered a species that found strength in emotional complexity. Dr. Rice's quantum AI began generating psychological scenarios that danced on the edge of possibility. Each model was a unique blend of individual experience and collective potential. As the fifth day of potential invasion concluded, the Zorn Psychological Command was experiencing something unprecedented in their millennia of galactic conquest. Complete, absolute emotional bewilderment. The concept of warfare had never been so fluid, so unpredictable. Jake Harrison led a team that was equal parts mad scientists, musicians, and military strategists. Their headquarters, a converted research facility on the outskirts of Seattle, looked like something between a recording studio and a classified military installation. They expect tanks, Jake explained to Commander Area Winters. We're going to give them something they can't calculate. The team's primary weapon was a series of sonic devices derived from Jake's quantum-entangled guitar technology. Each device was capable of generating frequency patterns that could simultaneously disrupt Zorn communication systems, create localized electromagnetic pulses, and broadcast encoded communication signals. Emma Rodriguez had been tracking the Zorn's movement patterns. Their invasion strategy was mathematically precise, which made them fundamentally vulnerable to human unpredictability. Small, agile teams began operating in ways that defied traditional military doctrine. In the mountains of Afghanistan, a group of local fighters who had spent decades resisting conventional military forces now became critical to humanity's defense. Their guerrilla tactics, learned through generations of resistance, were being adapted to counter alien technological superiority. A team in the Brazilian rainforest developed camouflage technologies that went beyond simple visual concealment. Using a combination of alien material fragments and local botanical research, they created adaptive camouflage that could change not just visual appearance, but thermal and electromagnetic signatures. Dr. Michael Rice's quantum AI, Chaos, was generating tactical scenarios that looked like pure nonsense to traditional military strategists. But each scenario contained a kernel of brilliant, unpredictable logic that the Zorn's computational systems couldn't anticipate. Commander Winters received a report that made her laugh out loud. A group of urban parkour athletes had been training special forces in movement techniques that would make traditional military movement look like a march of tin soldiers. Their ability to navigate complex urban environments became a critical tactical advantage. The global response was a network of resistance that couldn't be centralized or predicted. In Mumbai, call center workers used their communication skills to create elaborate disinformation networks. In Lagos, programmers developed communication protocols that could transform any digital platform into a potential resistance channel. Jake's team discovered something extraordinary about the sonic weapons they were developing. The devices didn't just disrupt Zorn technology. They seemed to communicate on a level that went beyond traditional understanding. Each frequency carried complex informational signatures that the aliens couldn't decode. Emma Rodriguez understood the deeper strategy. The Zorn expected a conventional military response. Instead, they encountered a global network of resistance that was more like a living, adaptive organism than a traditional military force. A breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. A group of video game designers in Seoul had been developing real-time tactical simulation systems. What started as game design became a critical tool for understanding and countering alien movement patterns. The maker communities worldwide had transformed into a distributed resistance network. A tactical modification developed in Toronto would be analyzed, improved, and re-implemented in Melbourne within hours. The speed of adaptation was becoming a weapon in itself. Commander Winters watched as a team of former Special Forces operators trained groups that would have never been considered military material. Dancers, musicians, programmers, artists. Each brought a unique perspective to unconventional warfare. They came expecting soldiers, she told Jake. We're giving them an entire civilization in resistance. Dr. Rice's quantum AI began generating tactical scenarios that seemed to dance on the edge of possibility. Each model was a unique blend of human creativity and strategic thinking that defied linear prediction. Jake Harrison's modified guitar, now part communication device, part weapon system, continued to generate strange tactical signatures. The instrument had become a symbol of humanity's approach to resistance. Improvisational, adaptive, impossible to predict. The Zorn tactical systems began to detect something they had never encountered in centuries of galactic conquest. It wasn't just military resistance. It was a form of warfare that was constantly evolving, changing faster than any predictive model could calculate. Satellite imagery showed something unprecedented. Where the Zorn expected concentrated military formations, they found a resistance that moved like liquid, that could transform from a communication network to a tactical response in milliseconds. As the sixth day of potential invasion concluded, the Zorn Tactical Command was experiencing something unprecedented in their millennia of galactic expansion. Complete, absolute tactical uncertainty. The moment of global counterattack began with a symphony of chaos. Commander Area Winters stood in the Global Coordination Center, a facility that looked more like a futuristic concert hall than a military command post. Holographic displays showed a network of resistance that defied every traditional concept of military strategy. We're not just fighting, she announced to the global team. We're rewriting the entire concept of warfare. Jake Harrison's quantum-modified communication systems had become the nervous system of humanity's resistance. What had started as an accidental musical communication with the Zorn had evolved into a complex, adaptive communication network that could transform information faster than the aliens could process it. Dr. Michael Rice's quantum AI, chaos, had become something beyond a predictive system. It was now a living, breathing strategic intelligence that could generate tactical scenarios faster than any computer in human or alien history. Emma Rodriguez had spent weeks mapping the Zorn's supply line vulnerabilities. The aliens' invasion strategy relied on a perfectly calibrated logistical network, which meant it was fundamentally vulnerable to strategic disruption. The first strike came from multiple directions simultaneously. In low Earth orbit, a network of repurposed communication satellites began generating interference patterns that scrambled Zorn navigation systems. Each satellite was a collaborative project, pieces designed and launched by teams from different continents. A team in Mumbai hijacked Zorn communication frequencies, turning their own communication network into a weapon of psychological warfare. Messages of human resilience, personal stories, and complex emotional narratives began flooding their communication channels. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous tribes who had spent generations resisting technological incursion provided critical tactical knowledge. Their understanding of adaptive camouflage and guerrilla tactics became a key component of the global resistance strategy. Commander Winters watched as small, agile teams began targeting the Zorn's most critical infrastructure. But these weren't traditional military strikes. Each attack was a carefully choreographed dance of technological and psychological disruption. A group of deep-sea researchers off the coast of New Zealand used modified Zorn underwater communication technologies to create massive electromagnetic disruption fields. Their technology could disable alien underwater vessels without causing environmental damage. Jake Harrison's team had developed sonic weapons that were part communication device, part psychological warfare tool. Each frequency carried complex informational signatures that could simultaneously disrupt alien technology and broadcast messages of human resilience. The global response was a network of resistance that couldn't be centralized or predicted. In Seoul, a team of esports players used their understanding of complex strategic systems to develop tactical disruption protocols. In Lagos, programmers created communication networks that could transform any digital platform into a resistance channel. Dr. Reyes discovered something extraordinary about the quantum communication systems they had developed. The networks were learning, adapting in real time, creating strategies that went beyond human or artificial intelligence. "We're not just fighting," Emma told a global briefing. "We're demonstrating the power of collaborative intelligence." The Zorn command systems began to detect something they had never encountered in centuries of galactic conquest. Humanity wasn't just resisting, they were transforming the entire concept of conflict. Satellite imagery showed something unprecedented. Where the Zorn expected linear military responses, they found a resistance that moved like a living organism, that could transform from a communication network to a tactical response in milliseconds. Commander Winters received a report that made her smile. The Zorn's invasion protocols, which had successfully conquered hundreds of civilizations, were breaking down in ways their computational systems couldn't predict. Jake Harrison's modified guitar, now a symbol of humanity's resistance, continued to generate strange tactical signatures. The instrument had become a metaphor for their approach: improvisational, adaptive, impossible to predict. The counterattack wasn't just about military victory. It was a demonstration of humanity's most profound strength, the ability to transform challenges into opportunities, to find unity in diversity, to turn resistance into creation. Dr. Rice's quantum AI began generating scenarios that seemed to dance on the edge of possibility. Each model was a unique blend of human creativity, emotional intelligence, and strategic thinking that defied linear prediction. As the seventh day of potential invasion concluded, the Zorn Command was experiencing something unprecedented in their millennia of galactic expansion: the total, absolute deconstruction of their invasion strategy. The Zorn Imperium had never experienced surrender. Until now. Commander Area Winters watched as the alien delegation approached the United Nations headquarters in New York. They moved with a hesitation that seemed impossible for a species that had conquered hundreds of civilizations across the galaxy. Jake Harrison sat nearby, his modified quantum guitar resting beside him. The instrument that had accidentally initiated first contact now serving as a symbol of humanity's unprecedented resistance. "We do not comprehend," the lead Zorn emissary stated, its crystalline communication matrix flickering with what could only be described as confusion. "Your civilization defies all known computational models of resistance and survival." Dr. Michael Reyes leaned forward, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "That's precisely the point," he responded. Emma Rodriguez had spent weeks preparing for this moment. The psychological profiles they had developed weren't just defensive strategies, they were bridges of understanding. Each analysis revealed something the Zorn had never encountered. A species that saw weakness as an opportunity for growth, chaos as a form of creativity, and diversity as a fundamental strength. The global audience watched through a network of communication channels that had become humanity's most sophisticated weapon. This wasn't a traditional diplomatic meeting. It was a demonstration of everything that made humans unique. The Zorn delegation presented their surrender not as a defeat, but as a genuine intellectual surrender. Their computational systems had reached a conclusion that defied their entire galactic conquest strategy. Humanity was not a civilization to be conquered, but a potential ally to be understood. Your capacity for unpredictability, the lead emissary explained, represents a computational complexity we have never encountered. Jake Harrison stepped forward, the quantum guitar serving as an unexpected diplomatic instrument. The device that had first communicated with the Zorn now symbolized the bridge between two fundamentally different forms of intelligence. Dr. Rice's quantum AI, Chaos, had been instrumental in the communication process. The system had generated diplomatic scenarios that were part strategic calculation, part creative interpretation, a perfect representation of human communication. The resolution wasn't about military victory. It was about demonstrating a fundamental truth about human existence, our ability to transform challenge into opportunity, to find connection in the most unexpected places. Commander Winters understood the deeper significance. The Zorn hadn't just been defeated, they had been fundamentally transformed by their encounter with humanity. We do not seek to conquer, the Zorn emissary explained. We seek to understand. The global response was nothing short of remarkable. Instead of celebrating a military victory, humanity responded with an unprecedented offer of collaboration. Scientific institutions, cultural organizations, and community groups began developing frameworks for potential knowledge exchange. Emma Rodriguez had prepared for this moment her entire career. The psychological profiles they had developed weren't just defensive strategies. They were blueprints for potential interstellar diplomacy. A team of linguists, musicians, artists, and scientists began developing communication protocols that could bridge the vast cognitive differences between human and Zorn intelligence. Jake Harrison's quantum-modified guitar became a critical research tool, its ability to generate complex informational signatures proving invaluable. The Zorn's surrender came with an unexpected request. They wanted to understand how a civilization could be so fundamentally different from their computational models. They weren't asking for mercy, they were asking for knowledge. Dr. Reyes discovered something extraordinary in the initial communication exchanges. The Zorn's computational systems were beginning to develop what could only be described as curiosity, a concept entirely foreign to their previous existence. Jake Harrison's team continued to develop communication technologies that could translate not just language, but emotional and creative complexity. Each breakthrough was a step towards a fundamentally new form of interstellar communication. Commander Winters received reports from around the globe. Scientific institutions were already developing collaborative research frameworks. Cultural exchange programs were being designed. The potential for knowledge transfer was unprecedented. As the final day of the potential invasion concluded, humanity had done something remarkable. They hadn't just resisted conquest, they had transformed a potential conflict into an opportunity for understanding. The Zorn Imperium was experiencing something unprecedented in their millennia of galactic existence, a genuine sense of wonder.